Hello my snacks, welcome back. Today we're going through a bunch of updates and stories, how calling someone a pathetic loser can actually be supportive, the OP who deserves to go all carry on her workplace, and how to navigate through an in-joke at the expense of others' sorrow. We begin, however, with this arguably traumatizing tale. My adult baby diaper lover roommate who has the intelligence of a toddler. What is Abadal? Well, to put it lightly, they pretend to be babies. They act like babies, they talk like babies, they suck on pacifiers, wear those onesie pajama things, and also wear diapers, which he does defecate in. Strap in, folks, it's a long one. So last year, I had trouble with money, so I had to find a roommate. Fortunately, managed to through a Discord group for the Pacific Northwest. Boy, was that a mistake. He seemed fine at first, a bit cringy, but whatever, we tend to keep to ourselves. Then throughout the year, I started to realize more and more that he is the stupidest person alive. The first thing he did was he never took off his shoes and walked in all over the floor in the carpet with his muddy shoes. I told him to take off his shoes and his response was, yeah, I guess you're right. He said that a lot when I told him to stop doing stupid things. He told me stories about how he's been kicked out from a lot of places because they were a-holes. And he was the victim all the time. After living with him for a year, I don't believe a single bit of those stories. He constantly leaves cabinets and drawers open and never closes them. He leaves wrappers and open cans for anything he has for food on the kitchen counters and never throws them away. Every time he cooks something, he never cleans up after himself and leaves the kitchen counter stained with all kinds of food for his disgusting soup that he makes that smells foul in my slow cooker that he ruined. He used metal utensils and my non-stick pots and pans, which scratch the bottom of them to hell. Every time he meets a new person he really likes, he gives him a key to our apartment, which I yelled at them to never do because that's a great way for us to get robbed. Every time he gets into a relationship with someone, which barely lasts a week, the first thing he does is brings him over on the first date and just sleeps with them. He barely even knows their name. He can barely hold a job for even a week. He talks back to his bosses all the time. He falls for obvious scams like going into crypto as a job. I'm not even joking. And for a short time was someone's sugar baby that turned out being a scam as well, with checks that would just bounce back that he was given. He complains about money all the time, despite spending $200 on groceries he orders online every week instead of going to the store himself. He bought a $30,000 motorcycle and can barely afford the payments every month. He wants to trade that bike in for the more expensive version next year. He never uses something until it's finished. He uses up half of one thing and then buys another new thing and opens it up, and only you just have it before buying another. My bathroom and refrigerator are filled with half-used bottles that overflow and always fall on the floor. Same with toothpaste too. And speaking of, every time he brushes his teeth, he would just spit everywhere and on every surface imaginable. Everything had white specks on everything. It was disgusting to clean. Every time I told them that he was doing it wrong every time because he doesn't use common sense, he went to his room and started crying to his friends on Discord, saying that I'm verbally abusing him. He has zero common sense whatsoever. How I found out he was a diaper pooper was when I came home early one day from work and I opened the door and smelled nothing but feces throughout the entire apartment. At the time, his boyfriend was also a part of the ABDL community. I ran out of my apartment to go throw up into the bushes. After preparing for the foulness, I went back inside and I asked what the hell that smell was. They told me that they were wearing diapers. And they just defecated in them and waddled around my apartment for a good hour before I came home. I screamed at them to take a goddamn shower and kicked his boyfriend out. The worst part is that he doesn't throw away the diapers right away. He puts them in plastic bags from the grocery store and leaves them outside to just fester because he's too lazy to throw them out right away. I wanted to move out for the whole year, but I didn't have the money at the time. But now that I've built up my funds again, I am able to move out once more and live on my own again. And now, thankfully, we are both moving out and going our own directions. He's moving into a house with 4 other people. Yes, You heard me. 4 other people. I asked him if they knew about the diaper stuff. His response is,
"It's a sex-positive house."
that doesn't answer my question, but whatever. He'll be out of my life forever. And I highly doubt he lasts a year there when the others who live in that house complain about all the stuff that I've been complaining about for the past year and the smell he creates. If my roommate ends up reading this, I don't know how he'd be able to, but probably will. I hated every time you spoke to me like a baby, and I wanted to be deaf. I hate the undersized onesies you wear that showed your junk every time you turned to me. I hate the diapers you wear and the smell they created that you never got rid of until I yelled at you too. Do not contact me ever again. So I think it needs to be said, especially after the revelation at the end of the story, forcing your kinks onto others isn't smex positive. This sounds like a human trying to force you into their fetish play. Literally, they are goading you into the adult role while they behave like a child to get their rocks off. It's not that they haven't been told these things, they are specifically getting off on you being upset and correcting them for doing things that are downright not okay. It is predatory behavior on their part and is absolutely gross. Glad you got out. There's nothing positive about someone forcing you to participate in their kink play. Yeah, what an interesting perspective on this. It's like the opposite of being an alpha to be intimidating. You're being a beta to be annoying? Uncomfortable? This housemate is truly the final boss battle in a world of no shame. The power to demoralize your enemies by absolutely not caring how others perceive you. But yeah, at the time, it's fair to say that this gentleman won the Bad Roommates subreddit for the year. Now, this whole experience was 2 months ago, so how are they doing now? Well, coming back to us in an update, we learn a bit more about what's been happening since the move, as well as how this, ex-housemate has been doing. I have moved out in December into a nice apartment and now living on my own in a brand new modern apartment, and I have never been happier. Now, I have some news about my old roommate, so here are a few key points. 1. Ever since he lost his job in November, he hasn't found one since and has zero money and is living off of the goodwill of his new roommates since he blew all of his money from an inheritance on his motorcycle. 2. He wrecked his $30,000 electric motorcycle a 3rd time and is now totaled. I am not sure whether he has it insured due to him not having any money. He also blames me for everything that has happened to him to this point, despite never making the attempt to change himself for the better, and would rather be the same diaper-pooping dumb bum he always is, and victimizing himself to the fullest, never taking blame for anything he has done, which was a lot. He has also 3 different medical bills he has to pay due to his inability to drive his motorcycle in the rain and his love for speeding. And to top it all off, the last few weeks we lived together, he has had one night stand after one night stand. I don't know why, but it's probably a coping thing to bang as many dudes as he can. He has burned every bridge he has come across in his life and is making his new 4 roommates' life miserable. I gotta say, for all the dirty diapers and the feces smell in my old apartment that he causes while living with him, making my life a living hell, behaving like a 5-year-old with dealing with any responsibilities and having me cover his butt every time, karma's a bitch, ain't it? Call me an a-hole for celebrating his downfall, but knowing that he will live the rest of his life victimizing himself and never improving himself as a character while burning every bridge he comes across in the process, it always puts a smile on my face. It's grown adults like this that, look, okay, people develop traumas, and for some, this is how they deal with said traumas. They probably have a really dark history that needs therapy ASAP. But I still stand by this comment, shaming can be healthy, and we should encourage it sometimes. Problem is, the only people who are encouraged or confident enough to shame others are people who are actually bullies and really tarnish the constructive criticism that shaming can actually bring when it's delivered in a healthy environment. Though that is a fixated opinion of mine, so I'm open to others though. What do you think about the idea of shaming? Do we think it's one of those words that's kind of been ruined by people who have used it in such a damaging way? Maybe we need to come up with a new term for trying to make someone realize how much of a terrible and disgusting or pathetic person they're being. How can you shame without just ridiculing someone? Because this next story goes through one tactic of shaming. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend that he deserved to have his girlfriend cheat on him and then get his butt beat by her affair partner? My friend Mark, 18 male, has recently been having a lot of relationship troubles with his girlfriend Leah, 18 female. They got together back in February of this year, when we were still in high school, and their relationship has become a complete train wreck. Mark was and still is head over heels for Leah. He has told me and my other friends that she is definitely the one, and that he eventually plans on marrying and settling down. This all seemed both premature and immature to me, but it's beside the point. Leah, on the other hand, is a nightmare. She's cheated on Mark several times now, and every time she does, she gives Mark some lame story about him not being supportive enough, or that she'd make a mistake, or that she wanted to see him get jealous for her sake. He gobbles it up every time. According to Mark, Leah largely acts like this because her father was very abusive towards her and her mother, and therefore she carries a lot of trauma with her. Mark constantly reiterated that he wants to help her work past that, but things haven't really been going his way. Now, since September, Leah has been seeing this other guy, Derek, 22 male, and she's 100% infatuated with him. I only know this based on what my other friends, and Mark, have been telling me because I was in another state for college. Mark has been arguing a lot with Leah about Derek, and she has threatened to leave Mark if he doesn't just simply accept her for who she is. He did. Not only that, he and Leah have entered what he calls a semi-open relationship. This means, according to Mark, that Leah is allowed to see Derek as much as she wants, but Mark isn't allowed to see anyone else. This is because Leah feared Mark would become emotionally invested in them and leave her. Mark begrudgingly agreed to this and has been seething for months about it. Since about November, Leah has been seeing Derek more than she does Mark. While Mark doesn't admit to it, our other friends have told me that she is essentially in a full-time relationship with Derek and only comes to Mark for money and emotional support. Fast forward to this week, and I'm back home for the break. Mark started texting me on Saturday, saying that he hated Derek for trying to steal his girl and wanted to beat him up that night. He said that he wanted me to come along since all of our other friends couldn't. They made up excuses not to go. They have told me this, but Mark doesn't know. Since I just got back home the day before, I was still exhausted, so I point-blank refused Mark's request. I told him that Leah was a lost cause, and I wasn't going to fight some people I'd never seen for her. Mark started begging me, saying that Leah is the love of his life and that he needs my help. I refused again. He then says that he'll go on his own, but I told him that he probably shouldn't. I woke up Sunday morning to more than 300 messages on my phone from Mark and all our friends. Long story short, Mark went over to Derek's place to bring Leah back. He ended up getting his butt kicked by Derek and his friends. They only stopped when Leah asked them to. I called Mark and told him that he should probably talk to a lawyer or something, but he refused because Leah asked him to not escalate the situation. I then told him that he was being dumb, and this triggered him so much. He started saying how I was a bitch and a snake for not backing him up and how I was a fake friend. I was so irritated at this point, so I told Mark that he deserved to get jumped and that it made sense why Leah preferred Derek over him. He hung up on me, and we haven't spoke since. Since then, my other friends have been saying that I'm an a-hole for how I handled the conversation, but they do agree Mark is a dummy. Am I the a-hole? I come from two sides of this. The one side, who used to be a bit of a mark, and thank God I got shattered out of that. Oh, the immaturity and cringe. So naturally, I am fully in support of OP here. But despite being a third party to it all and observing this from a purely hindsight lens, as I'm sure a lot of us are people who have actual experience to know that this was a terrible idea on Mark's end, some would argue that everyone sucks here because, look, yeah, Mark should have just gotten the hell out of here. Lee is an entitled prick and Mark's delusional. He's also a dummy for trying to fight Derek, but he didn't deserve to be cheated on. Let's not conflate being aware of something and not doing anything about it with being responsible for the thing happening. If you think Leah is at fault at all, then you think Mark has been wronged in some way. He doesn't deserve Leah's BS any more than someone who's physically abused and doesn't leave deserves being hit. Not saying those situations are in any way the same, just drawing a parallel vis-a-vis someone being at fault. Wrong is wrong. He's not the one who was manipulating two people to have their cake and eat it too. However, to reiterate, he's Delulu. Ultimately making more sense with, it does kind of sound like you could have handled it better. You don't have to support your friend's decisions, but you could at least support the person as a friend. I do seriously think there's a difference. And look, with all that reasoning, I can kind of understand where they're coming from. At this point, can OP really say they are Mark's friend anymore? Or have they been for a while? Like, they seem to imply they care about Mark, but the most they've done is just, omitted responsibility from their friend's safety. Surely, if you know your friend is in danger, you're going to try and do a bit more than just say, "No, don't. Oh, no, stop." But okay, 3 days later, we get an update and, oh, that's not a nice 3-letter word to have at the start. So what makes this a bad update? Some of my friends and I ended up going out with Mark to see how he was doing. We didn't want to go to his parents' place since Leah was now living there with him, and we didn't want to see her. He does look very beaten up. Black eye, bruises all over his face and arms, busted lip, etc. But he was surprisingly in a good mood and even insisted that we didn't have to apologize for how I spoke last time. And why is that? He told us that Derek ended up dumping Leah a few days after the fight. Apparently, he asked Leah to dump Mark. She refused, and they argued. I'll spare you most of it. Their conversation ended with Leah being kicked out of his apartment in the middle of the night, and Mark had to come pick her up. He has refused his parents' and our request to escalate the situation at Leah's request. Mark has said that Leah has been very depressed about Derek dumping her and spends a lot of the days crying. Mark just says he's incredibly thankful to be there to comfort her and emotionally support her. He keeps on saying that when it comes down to it, Leah chose him over Derek, and nothing can take that away. Like I said above, Leah has decided to return to living with Mark. She can technically go to her mother's house, but doesn't want to. And here's the real kicker. Mark says that he has a very good reason to believe Leah might be in the early stages of pregnancy now. My friends and I assumed the child was Derek's, but Mark insisted that regardless, it would be his kid. We asked him to get paternity testing, and he has refused since he can't do that to Leah. We've told him that the relationship is toxic, but he didn't want to hear it since that was a matter of perspective. Also, his parents have no clue about the potential pregnancy. He says that in the future, he doesn't want us to say anything about Leah unless it is the absolute truth. His speech of singing her praises. My other friends and I all left pretty stunned, and I'm thinking that at this stage, I'll slowly be removing myself from Mark's life. It sucks since I've known him for a long time and do enjoy his company, but I don't think I'll be able to remain friends with him in good faith if I'm not able to speak honestly to him. Now, I'm glad I'm not the only one feeling it. People positive that Mark has some weird cuck fetish. Surely, he's got to. This is beyond delusion now. This has got to be something purposeful. Yeah, one of our friends thinks that. This friend also is planning on going no contact eventually. Why wait? Go no contact right now, man. Leave this drama. But if he goes no contact, then we might not get updates on all the drama. No sarcasm. I'm legitimately bored with my own life. There's also this comment that just seems to say Jack over and over again. Don't know what that's about. Move on to the next story. I was told that our company's Christmas party's theme is ugly sweater when it's not. It's a story that makes you support people's suggestions to fill the coffee with a bit of soil or hey, even maybe just a little bit of laxatives. I work as a preschool teacher. My company has about 20 people, counting internships, and hosted a Christmas party at a local restaurant yesterday. I have been working there since May. Now, weeks ago, I was told that the theme for the party is ugly sweater, which is fantastic since I really enjoy wearing those. But to top it off, I ordered a knitted dress in the style of an ugly sweater and some thermo thighs. I was excited and even showed some people screenshots of the dress, to which they all responded positively. Yesterday evening, I arrived at the restaurant and was greeted by a very formal office look among all my coworkers. Small black or red dresses, formal jackets, skirts, white button-down shirts, high heels, and me wearing my knitted dress in the middle of it all. I felt underdressed at best until I tried to ask a new colleague about the dress code. She started working just 3 weeks ago, and she told me it's all business chic, but people assured her everyone knew, so she didn't need to write it in our WhatsApp group, where I could have seen it. Through snippets I got from many conversations, I learned that only I, the one who wears ugly sweaters to work, was told about this theme, and one colleague literally asked my boss if she doesn't pay me enough for nice clothes. Monday work will start again, and I have no idea where to find the courage to go. So, we've got some theories about what happened here. Maybe this was a very terrible miscommunication. Maybe it started out as being an ugly sweater party, but then changed to business chic, and everyone assumed everyone got the letdown or got the know-how. Maybe there was one person who thought this would be a funny little joke and just managed to get away with it in time for the party to begin. Either way, we don't get some more answers until the next update. Coming to us 4 days later, offering a quick little recap that they work with children aged 3 to 6 and the whole shabacle that happened, and a appreciation for everyone responding and giving some advice and asking a bunch of questions, to which the OP answers now. Were we dressed in business chic in a preschool? No, we were in a restaurant in the evening, all in private, so no one was dressing inappropriate for work or the children. Who told you the theme? Well, it was not one person in particular. In the beginning, when the party was announced, there was never male. The host, a colleague, suggested the theme as it's very Christmassy. But over just a day or two, many people noped out of the idea. Some discussed their outfits, some even got ready together. I ordered a knitted dress to top off the idea of just wearing a sweater and pants. I showed screenshots of the dress I ordered to my coworkers, and no one had the guts to update me on their ideas. I spoke to my boss about that, and even though she suggested, just like many of you, that the dress looked great and showed some good humor, she understood that the behavior of my coworkers was scummy. So, workplace bullying? Yes, and I didn't recognize it. We got a new boss a few months ago, and I noticed that since then, things went down rapidly. She is younger than most of us and tries to be the cool kind of boss, which led people to greatly overstep whenever they had the chance. In this process, I had people spreading gossip about me, excluding me multiple times, and spilling out my coffee mugs to mess with me, which screams gaslighting to me. I am pretty sad when going home for weeks now, while almost all preschools in Germany are looking for teachers. I scheduled a meeting for tomorrow morning with my boss and the two most overstepping other coworkers, and when this talk is not going into a direction that suits me, I printed out all papers needed for quitting, by law in Germany. I still need to figure out how I will tell all the wonderful parents of all the amazing children I work with that I struggle with a hostile work environment and may need to go for my own well-being. This all sucks, but I am thankful to all of you. So it seems there's some resolution being made. But despite the possible reprimanding, many people in the comments still say that no, don't even give them a ledge to stand on. You need to go. Finalize your new offers and go. The reason for leaving is a change in management when they ask you. They'll get it without you bad-mouthing anyone. You leave with head held high and self-respect to yourself. And that brings us to the question, do you tell the parents about this, or do you kind of leave without causing any more drama? I kind of feel like she should go scorched earth on it. Really get the parents on her side, but that's just me wanting a bit more spicy tea from this story. Would I be the a-hole if I played Another One Bites the Dust at my brother's wake? So my brother died. He was an incredibly funny guy. I miss him like I lost most of my limbs. Maybe it's stupid, but I want people to remember the person he was. My dad and aunts have been involved in planning his funeral, and they have been planning a very Catholic funeral service. He wasn't Catholic and wouldn't like the very expensive casket, the flowers, the church with a lot of people he didn't know there. He'd think it's way too fancy, way too much. He and I had morbid discussions a lot. Side effect of me being a goth teenager, I guess. He told me he wanted to be cremated and his ashes thrown into a ceiling fan while It's Raining Men played in the background. Now, obviously not an option. Also, together we made up a funny funeral playlist, including songs like Highway to Hell and Another One Bites the Dust. To remember him, I wanted to bring a speaker and play Another One Bites the Dust at his wake. I would explain it to the people at the wake and say that I wanted to preserve the person he was. Maybe I would give a speech or tell the story and explain how he saw death with humor, not sadness. There will be a lot of extended older family members who weren't very familiar with him and are Catholic, so I've been thinking maybe not. But I really want to preserve his memory as he was, not what people think he should have been. I think my cousins and sister would get a kick out of it. But would I be the a-hole? So it has good intentions. It's for the sake of honoring someone, not, making a joke of them. I can recall many tales in my younger years with, fellow high school friends, almost competing with each other to have the most unusual song to play at our funerals. And that's what this could have been, though. It could have just been some funny little theory to contemplate together, a fun little philosophy exercise in ridiculousness. Should it be something you should actually take, action on? Despite his intentions, many in the comments are totally against them. Look, you can give a funny speech or throw a party for him, but you're grieving him in a different way than your family is. Don't disturb their process to make a joke that might hurt them. It's just not necessary. Hey, I was in a very similar situation with my brother a few years ago, and I would unfortunately have to say you would be the a-hole if you did this. Look, it's great that you want to keep your brother's memory alive in the way that you talked about, but the funeral isn't just for even about him. It's for all your family and friends. And doing this may rub some of them the wrong way. If you want to honor your brother's memory like this, maybe plan your own smaller party or service with people you know would also remember him that way. Yeah, I can see where they're all coming with that. I mean, end of the day, sure, you have your own way to grieve, and sure, you may have been closer to them than you thought, but funerals aren't just for the deceased, they're for the people grieving. And if what brings them the most peace is by setting up some ritual that the deceased would not actually believe in, such as this Catholic-style funeral, then yeah, let them have that. I actually really never thought of it like that. I mean, in a way, it's not exactly like a wedding. It's not all about the bride in this case. It's about the people who are celebrating this person's life. It's one of those rare instances where a thing that's all about that person isn't all about that person. Now, shortly after, they come back to the comments. I didn't really expect this response, but thank you. My brother would have been absolutely thrilled by all of your comments. I swear, I almost sense his hand in it. I don't know if anyone will see this update, but here it goes. So this morning, I talked to my dad about the wake. I suggested, as some of you did, that maybe I could give a eulogy and talk about my brother, and then play an instrumental cover of the song. I found a violin one that I really liked. My dad listened to the cover and looked at the list that my brother and I made. He actually smiled and laughed and said that it seemed like a great idea. I hadn't really been thinking about my dad as much as I should have. I thought of him as opposition. I guess he cared way less about the Catholic stuff than I thought. I also reached out to some of my brother's friends. Some of them had already been planning a party in his honor, and they were happy to listen to some of my ideas. We are going to play all the songs on the list, plus a few others that apparently he told his friends about and not me. And we're going to start working on logistics for scattering, not human, ashes from a ceiling fan. Thanks again. So yeah, end of things. They actually still kind of get what they were hoping to do while still also honoring and respecting those who grieve in their own way. It's a really nice little wholesome end to it all. I am curious though if this violin rendition is going to be played in the upbeat pacing that the song is originally in, or it's going to have a more of a solemn tone. Either way, it's nice to know that they're still going ahead with the ashes from a ceiling fan idea. Fully support that. That's great. Mortifying to be underneath, but still great. Anyway, friends, we might end today's video there. Thank you as always for watching. Remember to drink some water, and until next time, love your face. Bye-bye.